Now let's throw forward to the presidential election in 2 years' time. How close does it all look? Which party will be the centerpiece and which candidates will face off against each other? Are we seeing a Tinubu bump or an opposition bump? And given that opposition political leaders have so far failed to agree on a path to a merger or coalition, will there even be any opposition party strong enough to compete against the APC in 2027? And for the Nigerian people, how are they viewing it all? Is it possible to get a sense of optimism, pessimism, indifference, or a whole range of views as they bear the brunt of the downturn amid economic hardship, higher prices, and increased poverty and inflation, in a country that many believe is so far along the road to death that a return to life seems unthinkable, impossible even, unless there is a dramatic change in the style of leadership? So, in the circumstances, who will argue and win the case for becoming the next president of Nigeria in 2027? Well, for his take on all this, I'm joined now in the studio by the lawyer and 2023 presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Prince Adebayo. Great to see you again.
Good to see you, Charles, and God bless Nigeria.
Indeed, and before we go forward, let me congratulate your wife, Lillian. In fact, you left your celebrations to come here this evening, so she has our sympathies for you going sort of AWOL for about a few minutes, but her 50th birthday.
That's correct.
So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Her name is Queen Lillian Adebayo.
That's correct. Yes.
Let me start by reading out one of your latest tweets in which you said, quote, "We, the Nigerian people, will shock the establishment and powers that be. There'll eventually be that one day when the arrogance of the Leviathan will be met with the verdict of the public. The problem here is the definition of the opposition. We oppose the system. Do you?" End of quote. Tell us more about what you meant by all that.
Well, what we see is that every government, including this one, every government that is there, there's always this fear of incumbency. People always say, oh, it cannot be done. Of course, until 2015, when the APC came and it was done. And then I'm surprised that people now have forgotten and they keep saying, oh, it cannot be done. So that's one part of it. And the other part is that why it may look difficult is that there is a crop of politicians who find themselves in opposition by accident. When they set out in politics, they are part of the establishment. But the establishment is getting tinier and tinier because of the greed of the establishment. They are not baking a larger cake for the country. They are only fighting at the table, and the pieces of cake that they get are getting smaller in sizes, and their greed is increasing, so some don't even get anything at all. So once those people have now been excluded from the stolen buffet, they now come and become opposition. Then when people see them, then they say, okay, what do you have? Because the paradigm that they see them using is paradigm of the establishment. But what is clear as day in Nigeria, is that any opposition that is genuine enough and people see credibility in that opposition will defeat the incumbent any day. In 2015, the marauders of Nigerian politics, they realized that nobody would listen to them. So they went and fetched Buhari, who had captured the imagination of the poor masses of the last swath of northern Nigeria. And they now added yeast to that and bake a very large cake, talking about change and all of that. So people bought into that. Now, in 2027, the pathway for opposition is to first define what is opposition. The fact that you're falling off the wagon or you have been disfavored by the establishment
doesn't make you opposition.
Doesn't make you opposition.
Right.
It make you unemployed, but it doesn't make you opposition. Now, if you are coming to opposition, it doesn't also disqualify you from being an opposition. But if you are coming to the opposition you have to now enter the opposition paradigm, realize that if your aim in politics is exactly similar or identical to the yearning and suffering of the masses, then you are in opposition. The critical contradiction in opposition politics in Nigeria is that we are now having many people whose opposition consists in changing only the incumbent without changing the system. They want to change the party in power without changing politics. Whereas the party in power is not the cause of the problem of Nigeria. The party in power is a product of the problem because it is only bad politics, pop and plain. Only bad politics can produce a President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for Nigerians. He's a product of bad politics.
It's interesting that your assessment there is really, I mean, it's very arresting in the sense that one feels compelled to listen to what you have to say. But you talk about the opposition and the parties and so on and so forth. And it looks like the SDP, your party, is becoming a crowded political house. Because, I mean, we're seeing a lot of politicians eyeing the party as a vehicle for their 2027 ambition. Is that a fact?
That's a fact, and there's nothing bad in that. The only issue is that that ambition has to be to serve the people.
Yeah, but isn't it the same politicians that you're complaining about now, that many of them are precisely the same people that you're saying are not necessarily opposition, are simply unemployed?
Yes. Now, the issue is this. In politics, there's a freedom of association, and because a political party is a public institution, just like the media, you don't necessarily agree with what I'm saying, but you have the privilege to give me the right to come and speak.
Indeed.
So that's how the political party is a platform. So when someone joins your platform, you welcome them to your platform, but you want to make sure you immediately re-educate them regarding what your platform stands for so that they don't get confused with what they were doing before. Secondly, you want to make sure that the people of Nigeria can see that what you are doing in your political party is strictly and mainly for their own benefit. That it is not for personal aggrandizement, it's not about...
And is that what is happening in the SDP?
That is what the leadership of SDP, if you speak
That's what you're aiming to do, but you're not necessarily achieving that, are you?
We are working towards that because we are dealing with it now. If you speak to Shehu Gabam, our national chairman, speak to Oluwagunloye, our national secretary, speak to other leaders of the party, even when you saw the speeches made and declaration made by our state chairman, you'll see that down our ladder, down our organogram, we are reminding everyone who joins the party that you are welcome. However, look at our manifesto, look at Chapter 2 of the Constitution, look at the plight of the masses, and whatever politics you do must be towards that. We are being congratulated that many people are joining the party. We don't have a problem with that. But what we want is for the party to be adopted by Nigerian people as a platform to correct what is wrong in our politics.
But the fact, of course, is that there is that politics that you talk about. And with all these people coming into your party, who clearly are the people that in many ways you opposed in other sort of political settings. I mean, I wonder where that leaves people like you in the face of some of these big wigs muscling in. I mean, how much are they likely to, for instance, challenge your presidential candidacy, assuming you're planning to give it another go in 2027?
Well, I'm giving it another go, and I welcome challenges. I don't mind being personally challenged for the position. Last time I did it, I wasn't alone. So I welcome the challenge. What we are more concerned about is that when you join the SDP, you follow the SDP. You cannot use the SDP to do something contrary to the philosophy of the party. So if someone comes from anywhere and joins the party and is aiming to challenge me, I don't have a problem with that, provided that you are challenging me within the prism of what the party believes. Don't pollute the party. For example, there's vacancy in the Vatican now. So you can just change your mind and say, I want to be a Catholic. But I don't think they're going to make you the Pope. They're going to welcome.
That is unlikely.
Yes.
I mean, you'd have to be a cardinal.
Exactly.
First,
So they will welcome you to the Catholic Church. They are not going to say, well, you were not a Catholic yesterday. But if you show up at St. Peter's Basilica and you say, please, can I be the Pope? They might say, oh, why don't you go and get baptism first and start from your journey from there. So that is basically what we're trying to do in SDP. Every Nigerian is welcome. And when we say every Nigerian, will be every Nigerian, whatever your political belief is. However, when you come to the party, you do the orientation, whatever ambition you have. What is important is that when you meet us, you will realize that we who are in the party are not driven by ambition.
Right.
If you are driven by ambition, we will have been part of you where you are coming from. We are driven by the need to change politics. I can tell you, there is no single politician that can save the country if the system is not changed. And the way the system is designed now is to have a president whose inauguration chair is put on Mount Kilimanjaro. So his head will be in the cloud. Once you get there, you cannot perform anymore. So we want to bring that presidential chair from Mount Kilimanjaro to the basic ground so that the president of Nigeria will be a servant of the people. And that's what the SDP offers. So whoever is coming, and those who have come, they will give you testimony if you interview them. They have met a very different experience, which is difficult for them because it's a party with order, it's a party with discipline and respect. It doesn't matter what you have achieved in your private life, in political life. What the party is interested in is what are you bringing and what is your standing.
Right.
With the
Well,
Nigerian
I
people.
mean, there's a lot of talk at the moment, which I'm sure you've heard, that given the preeminence and the strength of the APC at the moment, I mean, they are incumbents, even though you did knock that incumbency, that the only way to really get them dislodged is a possible merger or coalition of opposition parties to strengthen their position in 2027. What are the spoilers that you see in those moves towards the opposition coming together in that way? And do you see the SDP considering being part of that coalition and that possible merger?
The problem before us is that the Nigerian people are alienated from their politics. And consequently, they are alienated from their governance. Now, coupled with that, there is a chronic arrogance. There's chronic arrogance on the part of the politicians. They always believe that the coalition is about them. But the coalition should be with the people of Nigeria. Where the SDP has queries for these politicians is that you are all ganging and sitting down in your living rooms and painting imaginations of empires for yourselves. You don't understand that even the APC, which claims to be an incumbent, only had dodgy votes around 8-point-something million. So majority of the electorates did not come out in 2023. And they have less reason to come out now unless we redefine the politics for them. All they see are ambitious people burnishing their curriculum vitae and do other things and showing that they have clout and all of that. But what people want to see is a shift in understanding of what is wrong with our governance. So these alliances, we interact with them, coalition will interact with them, and they talk to you. You even know what they mean more than I do because they talk to you in media. And what do they talk to you about? They talk to you about how they labor in the other place, they were not recognized. Somebody came to see me a few days ago, joining our party, highly profiled person, and he spoke for me for about 1 hour about his lamentable experience with Tinubu, how he was not treated, what he contributed to the campaign. And when he finished, I said, Your Excellency, with due respect, sir, you haven't told me how the people are suffering. You're only telling me about how you were not treated well. I don't think that you should continue this line of talk because in SDP, we can organize a pity party for you in your house, but in our platform, we don't have time for this. Because that labor that you labor in conspiracy against the people, we don't count that as good work. So it's just telling me that you join an armed robbery gang and you were not giving your share. That's not my responsibility.
Well, I hope.
So what we need is a repentance.
Right.
What we need to tell the people of Nigeria, and it will be easy, is let them see that this coalition is about them. If the Nigerian people see that all this going around coalition alliance, if it's about them, if it's about those who are being mauled by terrorists, those who are being killed in the thousands, those who are hungry, those who are do you know that in this Abuja, if you go to Sauka, you will see Nigerian citizens who are displaced persons and they are living like Second World War. So what I'm letting you know is that we need to let the people know. So that's the only thing SDP is telling them. We are not against coming together.
No, I understand that.
But we are saying it must be about the people. What we see so far.
But it sounds like that is your point of view. I mean,
and that was the party as well.
And that's the point, because, I mean, if we look at, I mean, obviously SDP is SDP, but if you look at other parties, you know, Labour Party and so on, they had that kind of same messianic zeal. And now look where they are, you know. So the fact that you think that way does not necessarily represent the way that everybody thinks within your party. One of your respondents on Twitter said that it is overconfidence that makes a dog attack a lion.
Yes.
And I mean, that respondent was kind of referring to the situation in your party, you know. But the question is, who is the dog and who is the lion?
Yes. But
let me turn to other issues, because time is fast running out. I mean, what's your position on the absence of the president from Nigeria at the moment in the midst of what many see as a security crisis?
It's a confirmation of continuing irresponsibility. I've said it many times. The president has 3 offices. He has 3 missions in that office. He's the president, chief executive. He is the head of state, father of the whole country. He's also the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. These 2 functions, head of state, which you weep with those who are weeping, you rejoice with those who are rejoicing, you assure people. You cannot do that holed up in a hotel in Paris or in some person's private house or private yacht in Paris. The commander-in-chief function, you cannot perform it on foreign soil, unless you want to go on exile, which we don't pray for. So it's irresponsible. I am not one of those, and I don't believe, and SDP we don't believe also, that when there's insecurity in the land, when there is an attack or terrorist action or banditry, we do not politicize it, because we do not want to encourage bandits and criminals to think that they can influence our politics by committing acts of terrorism. However, we must see that the president, even if he has personal problems that he's gone there to deal with, he has 2 options. One, to return home immediately, to attend to the situation and grieve with the people, or to issue an instrument to the vice president to say, you act for me as acting president while I'm away. What he's doing is a continuation of the Cavalier way. The president hasn't understood the oath of office that he took. He started violating it right from Eagle Square. He continues to do that now. He's not the first one to do it, but he's the one who is doing it right now.
Right.
And we need to put a stop to that.
Well, I mean, listening to you talk, you entered the race to be president of Nigeria in 2023, but you lost. Still, a recognition of perhaps greater resonance has been given to you by many Nigerians, and that is the fact that many seem to believe you, even though they didn't vote for you necessarily. So you've raised awareness, but you haven't achieved a great deal else, have you?
Well, the awareness is more important, because people have to acknowledge that something's wrong with the politics. Because if you listen to politicians, they will tell you, oh, the president who is there now is the problem. Anybody but Jonathan. Oh, Buhari is the problem. He's clueless, whatever. Then Tinubu is the problem. But I can tell you, my mission is to make sure that Tinubu is the last of the bad presidents. And how do you ensure that? You will change the politics. You will make Nigeria to believe in the politics of their country. Reasonable people who will not touch politics with a long pole. When the politics is done in a proper way, ethically, legitimately, they will come into it. More talent will come into it, and people will not emphasize the politics of money. So once you change that system, it doesn't matter. Tinubu can resign tomorrow. You can conspire and remove him, but you are going to produce a Tinubu 2.0. So you don't need that. What we need is that we must change the politics. And to do that, you must first change your political party. And anyone who looks at the SDP knows that we have changed the party for the better. The message is going to the people. While we are doing awareness and our talkings, I don't want Nigerians to sit at home and point fingers at bad governance and say it's caused by politicians. The mandate comes from the people. And once the people raise their bar, politicians, some will respond to it, some will fall by the wayside. But if you say, under this current system we are running now, you want to bring money to come up, push money on me and put me there, I'm not going to accept. We must change the politics.
Right.
And that's what we are trying to change.
Okay. Well, the things you say are very positive, very encouraging, and very inspiring. Let's just hope that the Nigerian people aren't let down again, as they have been repeatedly in
by
the
God's
past.
grace, we will not let the Nigerian people down.
Okay.
And we are not going to follow those who have ruined the system before. Anyone is free to join the party, but we are for the people of Nigeria. We have no other objective,
Okay.
no other mission.
On that
to serve the
note, I
people.
want to thank you very much indeed. Sorry, we didn't have enough time because we had the Pope's
And my
death
condolences
and
to all Catholics in the
yes.
world. I've already issued my condolences, and I issue it once again.
Yes. Well, thank you very much indeed. Prince Adebayo is a lawyer and the 2023 presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, and God bless Nigeria.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.